Hey guys, welcome to day one of the Fall Intermittent Fasting Challenge. Keto Coffee Cheers. Today we're going to be talking about the Intermittent Fasting Starter Pack. So what it is that you need to know if you're brand new or even if you just need a refresher on the really important things for intermittent fasting. So we're going to be covering a lot of really great details on intermittent fasting schedules, on intermittent fasting and exercise, as well as what breaks a fast. So these are like the key components you need to know. Thought this would be a really great place for us to start, especially since we're starting the Fall Intermittent Fasting Challenge today. I know there's a lot of really new AM peeps to the community. So this is a really great refresher for people who have done challenges before. Also amazing if you are brand new to intermittent fasting and need an idea of where to start. So we have as I mentioned, this is the Intermittent Fasting Starter Kit. And if you guys can, throughout this, if you have questions, make sure you throw them in the chat because I will be answering questions throughout. Let me know if you guys are joining the challenge as well. I see already we have a lot of people like Camille, longtime AM peep. Happy day one. Keto Coffee Cheers, guys, to that. Good morning, Carrie. Hello, Matt and Barb in Kodiak, Alaska. Awesome. Yeah, let me know where you guys are coming from. Wow, lots of morning from BC. Good morning. All right, guys. So if you guys, let me get my tech going. So if you haven't joined in on one of the fall intermittent or just a challenge before, if you haven't joined in yet, you can still join in. The details are down in the description below. This is day one. So we have literally thousands of AM peeps around the world who are joining in. You already can see quite a bit in the chat, but in the AM Facebook group, we have like over 12,000 members. It's amazing. A lot of really great accountability and support. We have the meal planning in the 21-day program. We have the exercises, a lot of really great stuff, especially if you're brand new and if you want that support and community aspect as well. So if you haven't joined in on the Fall Intermittent Fasting Challenge, not too late. Check out the link that's down in the description below. Which if you guys are new here and you don't know me, my name's Autumn, certified clinical nutritionist with my master's nutrition human performance. Anyone who does know me has heard me say that probably about 350 times. So anyway, let's move on to the actual intermittent fasting starter pack. And really the most important place to start is the actual intermittent fasting schedule, because that's what intermittent fasting is. It doesn't actually dictate what you eat. It tells you when to eat. So, and that's something important to remember for the future when we get into a little bit more detail. But when it comes to, especially if you're a beginner, the areas that I recommend beginning with the most, because there are plenty of ways to use intermittent fasting. You could do 12-hour, 14, 16, 18. Those are just a few of the ones I list on there. But there's even 20, 22, 20, 24. You could do so many different types of fasting. These are the ones I recommend for most people that I've listed on the screen here, the 12, 14, 16, or 18. But especially if you're brand new, I recommend sticking with either a 12 or 14-hour fast, especially for the first, 1 to 2 weeks, because it can take a little bit of time to adjust to using intermittent fasting, especially if you are used to eating frequently throughout the day. So this is where having a 12-hour fast is a really great place to start to help get your body used to utilizing fat as fuel, getting those insulin dips, and all those perks that we want with intermittent fasting, but without pushing yourself too hard too fast. Because if you push yourself too hard too fast, I have found that it can just make people feel really irritable, really hungry, because you didn't give your body that time to adjust into using intermittent fasting, and it's just not going to be as fun of an experience. So, just start off if you are brand new with that 12 or 14-hour fast, and then you can eventually go up into that 16-hour fast or even an 18-hour fast if you like, but you can even just stick in that 12 to 14 if that works best for you. So this, especially for those first 1 to 2 weeks, it really helps the body to allow that hunger hormone ghrelin to dip down. That's one studied benefit of intermittent fasting, is that you aren't actually as hungry. And the hunger hormone ghrelin does dip down. Something I'm sure probably the AM peeps in the chat can attest to. After you've been using intermittent fasting for quite a bit, it doesn't even feel natural to eat first thing in the morning anymore. And then also that, we'll get into all the actual perks of that actually with this next slide here, because even with a 12 to 14-hour fast, you get a lot of perks that are pretty similar to the more extended fast. So I have on here, even between 12 to 18 hours, you still get the stimulated migrating motor complex. So that might sound big and scary, especially if you're brand new. All it means is your gut cleaning crew. So, you know how you've probably heard a lot of people talk about with intermittent fasting, how they feel so much less bloated and they just feel lighter inside as well. That's because this process called the migrating motor complex is turned on when you're not eating. So when you have some sort of fast, that's turned on, even at a 12-hour fast or even all the way, of course, up to an 8-hour fast, helps to flush out left behind food and bacteria that would usually lead to bloating or gas, just that uncomfortableness in your belly. So that's where you can get a lot of really great gut healing perks from even a 12-hour fast, and of course all the way up to the 18. And then even at a 12-hour fast, you still get that natural insulin dip where you just aren't eating. So you aren't going to be spiking the storing hormone insulin. So it actually helps to boost the fat burning and get the body into using fat as fuel. This can take about 1 to 2 weeks for some people to shift into this state of fat burning. So that's where you might not, if you are brand new, might not notice weight loss within the first 1 to 2 weeks, if that is your goal. But that's where it does take a bit of that transition period as your body learns how to use fat as fuel. Now, the other one is the some autophagy stimulation. So this can actually even depend on each person. 12 hours is really where autophagy, which is our cellular cleanup, starts. But we're not going to dive too much into that one today. I do go more into it in the 21-day intermittent fasting program. If you guys are using that, you can read more info. But I do have, you probably see that on, I have it right here. On the actual slide here, I have a free intermittent fasting schedule quiz that I have in the description below. So if you guys are brand new, you aren't sure which of the different fasts to use, if you should use 12-hour or 14-hour or 16-hour or whatever it might be, check out that quiz that I've developed down in the description below. Completely free. You don't need your email or anything to submit. Like those annoying things where it's like, enter your email to see results. Doesn't have that. So you can go take that completely for free and check out your where it's a good place for you to start with your intermittent fasting schedule. Okay, now before I move on, I see there's already some questions on here. Oh, thank you, Vicky. Hello, Autumnal from England watching. I absolutely love your videos. They've helped me so much. Thank you so much. Okay, Paul, does it take 2 weeks to get back in a fat burning if you have a not so good meal? No, it doesn't take 2 weeks to get back into fat burning. In fact, I do have a full treat day, like 4 treat day rules video that I posted, I think like a couple weeks ago, where I go a lot more into detail on that. I definitely recommend you check that out if you are looking to have like some sort of treat meal. That'll give you more details on that aspect. Thank you, Valerie. I love Autumn. She's very educational. Thank you so much. Okay. Bridget, I will be going into this question actually, I think in the next slide. I have all my notes right below me so I don't go too off track. But I will go into the details of keto coffee and the best time to be having that. So stay tuned. Okay. Oh, hey, Katie. Oh, Jordan, welcome, my brother. Welcome, Katie's brother. Can't speak right now. Okay. So let's go into, all right. So this next section I want to talk about is just the timing of when you should actually have that fast versus when you should actually be eating. So with this is something I think most people don't really think about too much, is the actual when you should be fasting versus when you should be eating, but it does really make a big difference, especially on how your body does process energy and process fuel. It'll make a big difference on how you're feeling and your sleep. Good rule of thumb is just not too late, not too early. So if you can center your meals around roughly the middle of the day, that's the goal. That's what we want to try and do. Now, the reason why this really matters is because we tend to be most insulin resistant at the ends of the days. So when you're more insulin resistant, it makes it harder for the body to utilize fat as fuel. It makes it so that you're more likely to be in that more storage mode. Plus, if you're eating too late, that can actually impair sleep quality. So that can make it so the next day you feel more groggy, more tired. When you get poor sleep, you actually increase your hunger hormone ghrelin, your stress hormone cortisol, all these negative things that can also negatively impair a weight loss journey or even just a health journey from a hormonal perspective too. So when we're looking at ideally where to center your meals, not too late, not too early. It's no hard, fast rule, but if you can try and center it somewhere around, like, for example, my eating window tends to be anywhere between like 10 a.m. to like 6 p.m. or 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. rather than having it be like starting at 6 a.m. and then going till 8 hours later, or starting at 2 p.m. and going until 8 hours later and ending at 10 p.m. That is going to be on the later side. Of course, it will have to depend on your schedule. If that's just what's going to work for you, it's much better than eating all throughout the day. At least you're not getting those insulin spikes all throughout the day. But if you are able to be more flexible with your eating and your fasting period, then ideally just remember, not too late, not too early. So try and push it, somewhere around 9, 10, 11 for when you break your fast, and then somewhere 6, 7, maybe 8 for when you're going to end your fast, depending on how long you're fasting or start your fast rather, dependent on how long your fasting period is. So that's really important, especially if you're looking to maximize from more of a weight loss perspective, but also from helping with an insulin perspective. Really important. Not too late, not too early. So speaking of, so for you guys, what's your fasting schedule? You could let me know in the comments. That'd be really great because it's really great to see where everyone's at. So just let me know in the comments or in the chat if you're watching this live, what it is that your fasting schedule is, or if you have it down. If you don't have it down yet, and if you're unsure, remember, I do have that free fasting quiz that you guys can check out. I do have that link down in the description below. So after this live stream, you can go take that quiz and see what's going to work best for you, or a good starter place for you to jump off at. So I have some people, oops. Okay. So Deirdre said 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. That's pretty much just like me. B IDOP 16:8. So Steve says 8 p.m. until noon. I'm assuming that's when you're fasting. Wow. So Sassy Monster, love your name. 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. So you have more of a 4-hour eating window. All right. We're going to get into that in a little bit as well. But that's great. David or David says 12 a.m. to 8 p.m. Again, I'm assuming that's fasting. Yep. 1 meal per day. Dawn is 1 meal per day. Great. So I do have some details on the 1 meal per day. I have some videos on that where I talk about the difference between like 1 meal a day and 2 meal a day and 3 meal a day and what's going to be most ideal. One thing to look out for there, just make sure you are adjusting for your protein amounts at that meal. It can be pretty difficult to get all that protein in at just one meal, especially if you are exercising. But if it's working for you, great. I do know some people where 1 meal works really great. So this next really important. So we've talked about the schedule on, what type of schedule to have, how long it should be, when you should ideally be having it around. The next really important thing to talk about is what actually breaks a fast. This is a very just common area of discussion in the intermittent fasting world, and it's because it really matters, especially if you're looking at the types of fast that you're using. There's 2 main different types. So you can see right here, we have the true fast as well as the fasting mimicking. So each have their perks. There's reasons why you might want to use one over the other. But if we're looking at the true fast, this is really great for more maximizing. I just realized, Dawn, sorry, I still have your name up there. Oops. Okay. So for a true fast, this is what you typically think of with fasting. It's where you're having pretty much just water, maybe some electrolytes, maybe some unsweetened tea or coffee, and that's it. That's a true fast, and it's where you're having nothing other than an unsweetened 0 type of calorie energy consumption. Now, the reason why this can be a good option for some people is if you're really looking to maximize gut healing. So remember that migrating motor complex that we talked about earlier, the gut cleaning process is only turned on when you're not eating anything. So this is a little different from the fat burning process, which we'll talk about with fasting mimicking. But if you're really looking to maximize gut healing and you want to keep that migrating motor complex really cranked up, then you want to make sure you're not having anything during that fasting period other than water and definitely electrolytes. And maybe unsweetened coffee or tea. That's where you can just get more of the maximized MMC, more of that maximized gut cleaning. Now with fasting mimicking, this is a really great place for especially beginners to start. So the reason why it's called fasting mimicking is because one of the hallmark signs of fasting is that you have lower insulin levels. Insulin is our storing hormone. So when you aren't eating, it's not going to be spiked. So when it's low, when that insulin level is low, it naturally cranks up lipolysis, which is our fat burning process. So if you're looking for more of just purely focusing on getting those balanced energy levels, getting that increased fat burning, you also get this with the true fast, but you can still get this with the fasting mimicking by not having anything that spikes insulin during that fast. So this means having pure fat sources only during that fast. So this would be like we talked about keto coffee, or if you add a little heavy cream that doesn't contain any carbs or protein, which can spike the storing hormone insulin. So making sure that it's coming from a pure fat source so you don't get that insulin spiked, and it keeps in that fasting mimicking state even though you're consuming something. Reason why I really love this, especially for beginners, is because it does really help during that 1 to 2 week transition period where you might feel a little bit hungry just because your body hasn't switched over to using fat as fuel yet. So using this fasting mimicking state can be a really great place for beginners to start, because fat cranks up our satiety, or one of our satiety hormones, cholecystokinin. So it can help to make you feel more satiated and less hungry during that fast. In fact, probably won't feel hungry at all, even in the beginning, while using something like keto coffee. So this is where it can be really great for beginners while still getting the benefits of using a fast. So you can also, one thing I want to note here, you don't have to do all one, all the other. You can use a combo of both. This is actually what I like to personally do, because I do like the gut healing aspect, but also I love keto coffee. I mean, duh. Cheers. But you can still get a combo of both. So if you want that gut healing, but you still really love your keto coffee, you could just have the majority of your fasting period be a true fast. So, when you end dinner at, like, let's say 7 p.m., to give an example, you don't have any decaf tea that has half and half in it. You just have water, or you just have just regular unsweetened tea. And then maybe electrolytes. You stay in that completely fasted state until about 1 to 2 hours before you break your fast. And that's when you can have your keto coffee. And now you're in more of a fasting mimicking state. So you still get more of the true fast for the majority of your fast, but you can still add that extra combo at the end and have something like keto coffee, or a little half and half, or heavy whipping cream in your coffee to have that extra boost of satiety, or if you just love it and still stay in that fat burning state. So that's a really great option, especially if you are a beginner and you are feeling a little bit hungry, or if you just really like keto coffee like me and you want to stay in that fat burning state without spiking insulin, but have something like keto coffee during that fast. All right. Now, to get into, okay, actually, I should probably see if you guys have some questions first. So Vicky says, how do you make this keto coffee? I have a video on my website or on YouTube that you can check out. It's I think it's my second video ever. So I'm like really awkward and shy in the video. So ignore that, but it's some really great information on how to make keto coffee and the perks of it. I also have a more updated blog post on my website, autumnmalnutrition.com, where it's how to make keto coffee plus recipe. So, and all the perks. So you can check out either of those. But just to recap what's in it, there's a ton of different ways to make keto coffee. I make it with grass-fed butter and coconut oil. You can make it with cacao butter if you're looking for a plant-based option. You can make it with ghee if you prefer ghee. A lot of different ways to make it, but I go over the basics on that one blog post and in the YouTube video. Kurt, yes, this will be posted later. It will be on YouTube, so you can review it later as well. All right, so I'm seeing a lot of questions about what breaks fast. That's coming up next, so stay tuned. A lot of questions on what breaks fast. All right, I am seeing a lot of questions on what breaks fast, so I'm just going to go into the next section, which is all the different things that actually do break a fast. So I put this video here because I wanted you guys to actually see. I have a ton of blog posts that actually go into exactly all of these different questions you guys have. I'm always looking at your YouTube comments and questions on pretty much everything and seeing what it is that you guys want to know more about. And I create a blog post or YouTube video about it. So if you're ever curious, like, oh, does fiber break a fast? Does lemon juice? How many specific calories breaks fast? I probably have a blog post on it. And if I don't, you can always email and ask and request to have that on there too. You can post it on my Instagram, you can post it in YouTube, whatever. So I have so many articles. If you ever are curious on, like, have that moment of, oh my God, did did my toothpaste just break my fast? I have a blog post on it. So make sure you check that out. It's a great resource for you. It's just autumnmalnutrition.com/blog. And I have a whole section within the blog. It says, does it break a fast? So that's a great resource for you guys. But just a couple that are very common ones that I see that I wanted to cover. Apple cider vinegar. Here, I'll get out of that so the video isn't too obnoxious. All right, so apple cider vinegar is one, and that actually does not break a fast. So you don't have to worry about that. I do, again, for all of these, have full blog posts. So if you're curious on the science behind why it doesn't, make sure you check out that whole section, that whole resource on my blog. Really, really great resource. Collagen will break a fast. It does contain amino acids, and amino acids can spike insulin, especially if you already are insulin resistant. It can definitely break a fast. So that's one that you'll want during your eating window. Pre-workout can depend on the type. Most of them have sugar, so most of them will break a fast. Most of them also have just, kind of sketchy ingredients that I wouldn't usually recommend anyway. I typically recommend opting for just using coffee or tea as a pre-workout, just to make sure you're actually getting optimized antioxidants regardless. So does it break a fast? Depends on the type, if it has sugar or not, and what else is in there. But regardless, I'd recommend that you use coffee or tea anyway. And then protein shakes. So just like regular protein shakes, like if you took protein powder and mix it with almond milk or even water, again, protein breaks down into amino acids. So this will break a fast as well, but it's a great option to include in like a smoothie, for example, for that boost of protein during your eating window instead. Keto coffee, we talked about this, but it does not break a fast because it is a pure fat source. So as long as you aren't adding in, which you got to be careful with this, because I have seen people, especially on Pinterest, if you search like keto coffee, a lot of people add still like maple syrup and honey, which is like, I'm confused on how that can translate still to keto coffee, but you got to be careful when you look up recipes online. Make sure it's pure fat source. I do have a ton of different keto coffee recipes on my website as well. 3 different fall like themed ones too, including chai tea options you guys can check out. I think you'll really love. But keto coffee, if it's from a pure fat source like grass-fed butter, ghee, cacao butter, coconut oil, even if you're using MCT oil, which I'm not the biggest fan of, but it does not break a fast. So you can use that as well. And then speaking of heavy cream and half and half, this is one where the amount really matters. So if you're using like 1 tablespoon or less, then that should be perfectly fine. But once you start to get above that, I like to just stick with the good rule of thumb of no more than 1 gram total of protein or carbs during the fasting period. There's probably some more flexibility with that, but just to be safe, I like to stick with that 1 gram rule so you don't get that elevated insulin and break your fast accidentally. And if you stick to about 1 tablespoon of half and half or heavy cream, again, as long as it's not sweetened, that shouldn't break fast either. But when you start to get above that, like if you're using about 3 tablespoons or 1/4 cup, that can break a fast. Okay. So then this, actually, before we go on, let me see if there's any questions. David, ACV, cheers. All right. Sarah, I have, so Sarah's question, I love unsweetened coconut milk, but it does have some saturated fat, and I've always heard this is bad for you. What are your thoughts? I have a couple videos where I really go into detail on this. I believe it's I forget which one, but just to give you a nice overview, saturated fat, there's been, especially with some really recent research in, there's a 2 meta-analysis within the last 10 years that have actually covered all the studies on saturated fat and found that there's really no research or evidence to show that saturated fat increased heart disease risk. So I wouldn't be as concerned about that. There are some people who might be a little bit sensitive, but outside of that, the current research is showing that there's not really a risk factor there to consider. I would still be more concerned about just looking at the quality. Also, what you're pairing saturated fat with, because there is some research showing that when you pair saturated fat with sugar, that's when it can be a problem, because sugar is very destructive within the body, and it can make things get more sticky and destructive, and it can also negatively affect saturated fat as well. So that's something to look out for, but just depends on how you're having it, what types of fats you're having. But the current research on just saturated fat alone doesn't really prove that there's much heart health risk there. Let me see. So Bill, question, I don't drink hot beverages or coffee. Can I do something with iced tea? Absolutely. So you just want to make sure that you aren't having any sugar in there. So remember, sugar, any type of carbohydrate or protein to stay away from during your fasting period, especially if you're using that fasting mimicking, because that will break a fast. But if you use a little bit of that heavy cream or half and half and you want to add that in there for a little bit of creaminess, you can. So just make sure you use that 1 tablespoon rule. Kat, oh my God, this makes me ecstatic that I can have my beloved keto coffee before I break my fast. This will make my getting to work in the morning so much more joyous than waiting until 11 a.m. Cheers. Amen to that. Juliana, I love your keto matcha tea. Yeah, so if you aren't a coffee person, there are other options. I have a keto matcha tea latte recipe. I have a chai tea and a dirty chai tea recipe. So I have it on my YouTube channel as well as on my website on automelnutrition.com/blog. So you can check those out. This is a little bit of a longer question on Lashes by Kimberly. Why aren't you a fan of MCT oil? It's really, I don't have any research to back this up. This is more so just intuition on, the more refined, the more processed that we make something, the less it tends to be good for us. So it's more so I'm just trying to stay ahead of history on what we've seen in the nutrition world, that when we more refine and extract and isolate something, it tends to not be as good for us. There's a lot of really great research around MCT oil and how it can be beneficial for satiety and weight loss. I tend to not use it. I might have it if I'm at like a coffee shop where they offer it, but if you use it, it shouldn't be there's no study showing it should be a problem, but that's my gray area with MCT oil. Sarah, I do also have a video on this. So I've lost weight. My goal with intermittent fasting by adding fats into my diet. However, my cholesterol skyrocketed while doing this. How do I deal with this? Check out my video on if you have high LDL. Just type Autumn Bates if you have high LDL into YouTube and it'll pop right up. I cover that in a lot of detail. All right. Well, Keiko's kid, don't like coffee or tea, need ideas. You can have water. You can have sparkling water. There's a lot of other water-based options you can have. But outside of that, it's important to make sure that you aren't having the carbohydrates or protein. So that's just something to consider during the fast. Rob, so the caffeine is okay in coffee. As long as you aren't extremely caffeine sensitive, there are like 3 categories of people when it comes to caffeine on if you're really sensitive, moderate, or not very sensitive. So it all comes down to how quickly you can break down caffeine. If you find that it doesn't disrupt your sleep and it doesn't cause issues for you, then it's perfectly fine. I would just try and make sure that it is coming from one that has antioxidants along with it. So like in coffee or with tea. So obviously that's kind of packaged with antioxidants, but when you just have caffeine in like an energy drink, it can affect the body a little differently. Okay, I'm going to get to the next section. Oops. Because we have some other additional information to go over. So that is all for the what breaks a fast. Now, the next really, really important section to get into is exercise, because I think there's a lot of confusion around this as well on how if you are going to be exercising during your fasted state, you'll have no energy and you won't be able to perform at the same level that you could have if you weren't fasted. Let's go over what the actual studies are showing. So first of all, with intermittent fasting and exercise, intermittent fasting has been shown to boost growth hormone, which is muscle protective. So when you are fasting, this is likely comes down to the fact that insulin, our storing hormone, can negatively affect growth hormone. So by having high insulin, it can cause growth hormone to come down. Growth hormone is needed to help protect muscles. It's needed to help increase fat burning. Really important, especially if you are exercising. So intermittent fasting actually during that fasted state naturally can boost growth hormone. So it is very muscle protective. There is that transition period to consider if you are using intermittent fasting, where I do recommend during that first 1 to 2 weeks, while your body is using fat as, or relearning rather, how to reuse fat as fuel and not eat as frequently during that process, I would recommend starting off with lower intensity exercises, because the lower intensity you get, the more that your body is actually going to be in a fat burning state anyway. When you start to increase your heart rate, your body's reliance on carbohydrates tends to go up just because it's a faster burning energy source. So, oops. Okay, there. So you do want to make sure during that first 1 to 2 weeks, you optimize for the types of exercises that are going to help your body push yourself into that fat burning state naturally. This is why I really love using walking. It's an amazing exercise to be doing when you are first using intermittent fasting and just in general. Pretty much all of us can do walking. It's something that is free. You just have to get outside or, even walk around your house. I have another video coming out very soon on walking for you guys. So make sure you check that out. But that's a great one to be starting off with as your body relearns how to use fat as fuel. During that time period, when you are in that transition period, you might notice a little bit of a decrease in energy levels because your body is essentially trying to switch gears out of that constant fed state with the carbohydrate reliance into more of using your own body's fat stores and other fat as fuel sources. So it's as the body is going from here to there that you can have this like 1 to 2 week transition period where you have a little bit lower energy. That's where walking, doing something lighter like yoga or light swimming, even light strength training, depending on your energy levels. If you just want to lift some type of weight, you can, to keep it on the lighter side. Just listen to your energy levels. And then as you get out of that transition period, you tend to be able to reincorporate all of your usual exercise. This is something that I didn't realize. I actually have another video coming out soon on things I wish I knew before I started intermittent fasting. This was a big one. So you can reincorporate your usual type of exercise and have it during that fasted state because of that boosted growth hormone. And actually, especially if you are using endurance, that tends to be the best time to exercise because endurance is largely a fat burning exercise. So it can really help to prevent that bonking or hitting the wall because you have more access to more energy than you would from just a carbohydrate fueled source. In fact, I just have one of the AM peeps who just ran a half marathon in a completely fasted state, and she did amazing. So you definitely can with more of the endurance. And in fact, it can actually be better for performance with endurance once you're in that transition, out of that transition period. But you can use strength, you can use endurance, you can use yoga, cardio. You can pretty much do anything during that fasted state after you have gotten out of that transition period. And as long as you're eating the right types of foods, which anyone who's just tuning in right now, this is the Fall Intermittent Fasting Challenge Day 1. So you guys know that we have whole meal plans and recipes for you guys. Make sure that you are optimized for protein, fat, and fiber. So if you haven't joined in yet and you guys are new to intermittent fasting, make sure you check out the link down description below for those meal plans and recipes to help optimize your intermittent fasting experience, because you do need to make sure you're eating the right types of things to recover from these workouts as well. Otherwise, you'll just be losing muscle mass, and that's not what you want. That's literally the exact opposite of what you're looking to do when you are exercising. So that's something that you can check out with the link down description below with all the recipes, the meal plans, etc. Make sure you check that out if you're brand new, because what you eat really matters. Can't stress that enough. The one area that you might want to consider if you are to work out in a fed state or after you've eaten is a high intensity interval training. Now, this is true high intensity interval training where you can really only do that exercise for a very short amount of time. Like think sprint interval training. That's something that you'll want to do in a after you have eaten state, especially if you're performing, because you are purely using carbohydrates as a fuel source there. So you'll want to make sure that those muscle fuel storage units are tapped off with the carbohydrates needed to use that workout or to do that workout. There are some theories on what's called training low, on how when you're training, you can still do these high intensity interval workouts in the fasted state and actually makes you perform better in that fed state on performance day. This is something you really only need to consider if you're an athlete. Even regular HIIT workouts where it's like a 20 or 30 or 40 minute HIIT workout, you can even do in a fasted state. But if you're performing and if you're looking to maximize your performance, that's where you might want to do it in the fed state, just so you have all the your muscle glycogen stores tapped off. So that's just the one area to consider with exercise that you might want to be in a fed state. Everything else you can typically do in that fasted state, and you can do it just as well, if not better, because of that boosted growth hormone. Which if any of you guys are doing the Fall Intermittent Fasting Challenge, make sure you check out the 3-week workout program for strength training. That's in the 21-day intermittent fasting program. It's a really great option you can use. I would recommend starting off with that first week in that walking or lower intensity exercises. and then incorporating those exercises within the program. That way you can actually help to further improve insulin sensitivity the way that you would with intermittent fasting. So exercise along with intermittent fasting can actually really help to further your results outside of just athletic performance. But you want to make sure you first get that transition period. So again, if you haven't joined the fall challenge yet, make sure you check that out in the description below. There's workouts included with the 21-day IVE program. So great option for you guys. All right. So actually, let me see if there's any questions here. So Juliana, is hula hoop and swimming okay? Yeah, absolutely. So those are generally going to be moderate type of exercises. You're not going to be in that high intensity interval training. So that should be perfectly fine. Check your energy levels, see if you need to bring down the intensity a bit. If you do, listen to your body, especially during that first 1 to 2 weeks. But after that transition period, and if you're eating the right types of foods during your eating window, it shouldn't be a problem. Okay, so which program would you recommend for someone who is used to dry fasting due to certain reasons 2 times per week to make intermittent fasting their lifestyle? Thank you. I typically don't recommend dry fasting. I know there's a time and a place for it, especially from a medical perspective. So if you are doing that, you might want to check in with someone who does actually work with dry fasting. Okay. Luke, this is a really great question. Working continental shift and keeping my 14-hour fast, but when I switch between days and nights, will my eating window change? So essentially, are you asking when you have like night shifts versus day shifts, should you change your eating window? You have to change it to when you actually are going to be awake. It does sort of negatively affect just the circadian rhythm, unfortunately, but you need to eat. You need to make sure you're getting enough of the right types of foods during your eating window still. So I would just adjust it based off of your wake time when you are awake during the nighttime hours. So just if you normally start your first meal 2 to 3 hours after you wake up, just do that same thing for the night shift and then go back to your usual schedule on those non-night shift options. I also did an interview with a nurse who had night shifts. I believe it was the summer of 2019. So you can look on my YouTube channel. I also have really great tips from her that you can check out as well. Okay. Aaliyah, hello, Miss Autumn, new subscriber here from Dubai. Keto Coffee Cheers, welcome. Just want to ask if you can suggest sustainable food selection applicable anywhere we can go. I'm not sure your question if you're asking like what types of foods you can eat while you're on the go. I do actually have a whole live stream I did on how you can eat while out to eat. That was during the last challenge, I believe. I went through all the different types of restaurants and what I would recommend based off of the common items that are at these various restaurants. So definitely check that out if that's what you're asking. If not, email us. I'm not quite sure your question. All right. Michaela, how often do you work out and for how long? It is highly dependent on your goals. So if your goal is like some type of athletic goal, then you'll have a specific structure there. But even if you can just get in 2 to 3 times per week of some type of strength training, that can be really beneficial for improving insulin sensitivity, which makes it easier for the body to use fat as fuel. You can even gain muscle mass if that's what you're looking for, depending on how much weight you're using, by even having a 2 to 3 day per week structure. However, I would recommend getting in walking daily. That is something that is something we really should be doing at least 15 to 30 minutes per day so you can get your muscles contracting and help make your muscles more insulin sensitive. Also, all of the really great benefits of making sure that you're decreasing the stress hormone cortisol, just getting the body moving. So if you can at least walk every day for as long as you can, great. But if you want to incorporate some type of strength training, I would recommend about 2 to 3 days per week, starting off with that. All right. So as I mentioned, guys, if this is your very first time seeing me, if you're a new subscriber, or if you haven't even joined the fall challenge yet, today is day 1 and it's a 3-week challenge. I'm actually getting ready for my wedding, which is in like less than 3 weeks now, which is crazy. So I'm using this to make sure I'm going to feel deep bloated and energized and clear skin and all of that amazing stuff on my wedding day. But I want you guys to join in and feel really great too. So if you want to join in, the details are down in the description below. It's not too late. You can start today, you can start tomorrow, whatever. We're all here to support you. A lot of really amazing AM peeps who have been along this journey for years and have a lot of really great tips as well. So make sure you check out the link down in the description below if you guys have not joined in yet. It's an amazing resource to help give you everything you need from especially a meal perspective, because what you eat really matters. I really can't stress that enough. If someone tells you just to simply not eat for a little bit of time and then to have that fasting period, or to have that fasting period and then just eat, the just keeping it as simple as that, that can really work against your goals. You might see progress in the beginning, but eventually it's going to stall, if not reverse your progress, because you have not addressed your food as well. And you likely aren't going to feel really great in the process too. So please make sure you are addressing your meals. That's where you can go in with the meal planning, with the 21-day program, with the level up guide, 100+ recipes with with the bundle combined. So make sure you check that out. A really, really great place, especially if you are brand new to get started. If you're watching this after the challenge has started, you can still join in on using the complete intermittent fasting bundle, all down in the description below. Make sure you check it out. Check it out. I need more coffee, guys. So question for you guys again, what's your goal with intermittent fasting this fall? Like I mentioned, my goal is to make sure I'm feeling really energized, that I have that clear skin and especially not feeling bloated on my wedding day, because I've had a history of feeling excessively bloated before using intermittent fasting. And it just really makes you feel low energy and not so great. So I'm really excited to make sure I can feel amazing on my wedding day. And that's my main goal. But let me know in the chat or in the comments below if you're watching this after the live stream. We have Juliana who says weight loss and fat loss. Fantastic. So notice she says fat loss. That actually is a great way to view it if you do have a weight loss goal, because you want to lose body fat percentage. You don't want to lose muscle. So that's called body recomposition. And that's especially where intermittent fasting paired with some type of exercise can be really great with that. So it's an amazing goal. Coach Debbie, my goal to have a healthy routine. Amen. That's great. Oh, Maria, getting married as well. Look great in my wedding dress. Congratulations. Deirdre, yes, fat loss. Fantastic. Luke, great question. Can fasting and calorie deficits work well together, or should I do it after? I have so many things I want to say to this, because if you just look at calorie restriction alone, it just does not work. Time and time again, it does not work. You might lose weight in the beginning, but if you're not looking at the types of foods that you're eating, it can really make it so your body is going to be pulling from muscle mass instead of fat loss. You're not going to get that body recomposition. You're going to lose overall weight, and it's going to decrease your metabolism, make it harder to lose weight in the future, and just feel low energy in the process. I have multiple videos on this. It really does matter what you eat, not necessarily how much you eat. So that's why intermittent fasting works so well as well, because it does allow insulin to naturally come down, which is our storing hormone, and turn on fat burning. So we're looking at from this hormonal perspective and how the body is using that fuel and where that energy is coming from. So obviously that's just, skimming the surface of this topic. I have a whole playlist. I need water. I have a whole playlist on my YouTube channel on how to lose weight without counting calories. I think that's what the playlist is called. Make sure you check that out, because there's a lot of information that we need to make sure you get first. All right. So Robert, I can do without the fat bit. I want to build some muscle. Great. As we mentioned, the growth hormone perks, really great there. You'll just want to make sure that you are likely consuming a little bit more fat as well as protein if you aren't looking, if you are looking to increase your muscle mass as well. Something that I do talk about in the level up guide, so you can check out the whole complete intermittent fasting bundle for those details. Rob, I need to break this 3-week plateau. Fantastic. Great. Let's keto coffee cheers to that. Camille, thanks, Katie. I have amazing accountability friends. Yeah, Camille, Katie, a lot of other AM peeps have been part of the community literally for years, and everyone is very supportive of one another. So it's a really great place to be if you're looking, especially for some just positivity and other people who are along this journey with you. Oh, thank you. Arissa Cat, thank you for all the great info. I'm so glad I purchased the IF bundle. Detox now on to the 21-day challenge. All right. Keto Coffee, cheers. Congrats on finishing the 7-day IF detox. Oh, great. Anessa, hi, Autumn. So happy I discovered you and your amazing nerdy science last week. Welcome to the AM Peeps. Thanks for nerding out with me. I'm excited to start the challenge. Okay, great. So, Katie, love this team. All right, guys. So as I mentioned, the Fall Intermittent Fasting Challenge starts today. If you want to join in, make sure you check out the details down description below. We would love to have you join in. My goal, my mission is to make sure that everyone can feel good again, whether that be looking from a fat loss perspective, from muscle building, from deep loading. As you've seen, there's a lot of really great perks with intermittent fasting when done properly that can help address each of those. So thanks, guys, for tuning in today. I will be having next week's for week 2 Fall Intermittent Fasting Challenge. I will be having that coming up on Monday of next week, likely same time. So make sure you guys check out the community board, or if you haven't joined the newsletter, make sure you stay in touch there, which again, all details down description below. I am a little uncertain on which direction I'm going to be going with the next one. So if you have any ideas of what it is that you want me to talk about next time, let me know in the comments, let me know in the chat. I read all of them. So I do take all of your feedback into consideration. And if you guys love this video, if you could give it a thumbs up, that's really helpful to help other people to view this information and to make sure that they have access to the information that will help them to feel amazing, break through their plateaus, and feel great again too. So give this video a thumbs up if you like it. Thank you guys so much for tuning in today, and I'll see you guys on next Monday. Keto Coffee, cheers to week 1.